So earlier in the evening, North Precinct had a carjacking. Dispatch just put a call in for service at St. Thomas Midtown Hospital by an unknown caller. Don't know the relationship. It's given us a name of a youth at 16 years of age, and he's supposed to be at the hospital and was the one that did the carjacking. So we're en route to see if there's anything to substantiate that.
Over the course of 6 weeks, News Channel 5 Investigates went on patrol with the Metro Nashville Police Department's Juvenile Crime Task Force.
Put your hands behind your back. If you're resisting.
The task force was formed in February 2018.
Pairs or groups of young men committing armed robberies, pistol whippings, and even physical fights with police.
After a spike in violent juvenile crime.
Right, police were able to make an arrest, and get this, the suspect is just 16 years old.
Crime that was spreading to new areas of the city and surrounding counties. We wanted to know what the head of the task force, Lieutenant Blaine Whitehead, sees on the front lines.
Well, what is the criteria you use for deciding which neighborhoods to focus on?
So when we're going into a neighborhood, we're specifically looking at intelligence-based information. So we're going into a neighborhood, we're actually looking at a specific youth or youths a lot of times in the communities. So when we're going into those communities, we know that they're oftentimes living there, hanging out there, or go to school in that area. So we'll be in that immediate vicinity looking for those specific youth or youth who may be an acquaintance of that youth. So it's not just a random patrol tactic or something of that nature where we're just going into a neighborhood and just blindly stopping any violation that we can find. That's not the way we currently operate.
So you're looking for teenagers who are problems. You're also targeting the areas where you find a lot of stolen vehicles.
Absolutely. So that's one of the strategies that we use, is knowing off the intelligence that we learn is where cars are stolen, and then where are we finding those cars. And it's not just our team, but where is the entire department finding these cars. So that's the information we will take and evaluate and constantly look at, because it changes week by week, and then we will readapt and go into those communities. What we specifically are looking at in the youth is the correlation between firearms and the stolen cars. So we know that the stolen cars are oftentimes just one of the things that kind of starts a whole process of crime by the youth. So what we will do is try our best to interdict those youth who are involved with the stolen cars, in hopes that we're going to get them before they pick up a firearm or before they go and commit a violent crime with that firearm or the stolen car, because we know they use those sometimes without firearms just to commit the stolen crimes when they're actually running the vehicle into a commercial building or into someone committing an assault with it.
So you focus on neighborhoods where the troublemakers live and where the stolen vehicles are usually found.
Absolutely, and that's just, and when we're in the communities where we're looking for the stolen cars, we're specifically looking just for those youth who are involved with that type of activity. That's very specific. Not going in again just looking for random violations. We're going in looking for very specific things. We know what cars are stolen, and we oftentimes know the youth that are involved with those type of offenses, and that's something very specific we're looking at.
You're seeing more kids stealing cars and more kids in possession of handguns. That's a deadly combination, isn't it?
Yes, that's exactly what I call a recipe for disaster. You have a youth, oftentimes 12, 13, 14 years old. They're not even old enough to have a driving permit or driver's license. They get behind the wheel of this 3,000-pound vehicle now, which is just an absolute horrible thing to have, because they have no idea what they're doing. And they're going to take your car after they steal it, and they're going to crash it, and they're going to use it in further crimes, because when they're going through getting these stolen cars, they're checking cars for keys, for guns. So we know a lot of times they eventually come upon a firearm that was in a car, unsecured, and then now they have a gun and they have a stolen car. And 12, 13, 14-year-olds do not know how to properly drive, and they do not know what they're doing with a firearm most of the time. So it's a very, very dangerous combination. Absolutely a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
So there's not a very big leap between a kid with a gun stealing cars and someone potentially being killed.
No, absolutely not. And the horrible thing about it is, since we're dealing with these 12, 13, 14-year-old children, you can have someone killed and they may not even intend to kill the person, because again, they have no idea what they're doing with the car or the gun. They can crash into you, not meaning to crash, and kill you, or they can go to rob you with the stolen gun they have. They don't have any idea on how to use the gun a lot of times. They don't even know if it's loaded. And mistakes happen, and the next thing they know, they've shot someone during the commission of that robbery, and they had no intent to shoot the person. Again, in my mind, there's nothing, that's an absolute nightmare combination.
Let's talk about repeat offenders. How much of a problem is that?
Unfortunately, you look at all the children in Nashville, and it comes down to a very small percentage of the children who are committing these crimes. And it's the same ones more times than not, over and over. By having a team of police officers that we have that focuses on just the youth committing these violent crimes, we know a lot of times who it's going to be. As soon as a crime happens, we oftentimes will know more than likely who the youth is and where we can find that youth. And that's why we've had such success, is because it is such a small portion of the youth population here in Nashville. But it's that unfortunate problem is we know the youth, we've had contacts with youth, we've exposed them to the criminal justice system in Nashville. Why is it still being a problem? Why are we still experiencing the same youth committing violent offenses and car thefts over and over and over again?
Are they not afraid of juvenile court?
From our experiences, they do not, a lot of times, even think there was any consequences, because they're released so fast. They don't correlate that there was even a consequence to them being arrested for the stolen car or the gun.
What I hear you saying is there's no fear of consequences.
No, absolutely not, because again, we're dealing with the same youth, and we will interview them, and just from their prior offense to the offense that we're dealing with them currently, they'll tell you, nothing happened to me the last time. Nothing's going to happen to me this time, because the way the system is set up, they don't correlate in their brains that there was even any punishment or consequence to their actions.
Less than 6 months after the task force hit the streets, one of its officers, Andrew Delkey, was involved in a controversial shooting.
A grand jury handed down an indictment of Officer Andrew Delkey.
Nashville's DA indicted Delkey on murder charges. Whitehead could not talk about the case, but he was willing to talk about the impact it had on his team.
Was that demoralizing for the unit?
To some extent, yes, but you have to realize the officers that were selected to come over here were chosen because they were described by their chain of command as being the best of the best. That was something Chief Anderson really had to drive home when he made the selection of the officers. So those officers are highly motivated, highly proactive officers, and they understand that the work they're doing is making a difference in the communities. They know when you take the guns off the streets. They know when you take the stolen cars off the streets. When you go into the communities and you build those relationships where they call you when there's a problem, you've done something. That's something you can feel, you can see that you've made a difference. And that's why every one of them is here, is they want to make a difference in the communities for positive reasons. And they can see that they're having that influence. Sometimes in this job you don't get to see that you're having a positive impact in the community. But this role in this job on the juvenile task force, they can see that. They can see the differences. It's not just in statistical differences where our aggravated assaults are lower, our auto thefts are coming down, our homicides are coming down. They can see it in the communities. Because when we go into the communities, people are coming up to them in the areas and thanking them, taking selfies with them, and when there's a problem, they call them. And when we know they're calling us, they know they trust us.
So your message was, keep your eye on the mission.
Absolutely. Look at the difference you're making. I know why they're here, because I know I'm one of them. I'm a police officer. I know why they're here. They want to do good things, and constantly putting the spotlight on those good things. Look at the difference you're making, that helps them stay on task.